I'm very pleased to announce our first inductee into Bruce Whipple's Pantheon, Gabriel Dobler. Gabriel is a mentee of mine, and I couldn't be more proud than to have him as the first inductee. It was an easy choice. We started to work together in August of 2019. He bought the first course that I produced when I started mentoring in this. He'd been through the courses, he'd been through group coaching, and also one-on-one mentoring. You can find out more about Gabriel by going over to brucewhipplepantheon.com. You can also find the criteria for being considered to be in the Pantheon. But before you do that, I've recorded a very special interview with Gabriel, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, good morning, Gabriel.
Good morning.
Or good afternoon where you are.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah, good. I'm glad to do this. And the first thing I want to do is congratulate you on being the first inductee into
Thank you
the
very much.
Pantheon.
I got it.
You even get a plaque. So,
yes.
yeah.
It looks really nice. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. You did the hard lifting. So, congratulations on that. So, yeah, maybe just a little bit about we met in August 2019. A little bit, you were working as a salesperson for a reasonably large company. The little thing called the pandemic came along. So maybe talk about your beginnings and how that was, and following a little bit of a timeline to where you are today.
So, yeah. So we started basically talking to each other, let me say, in 2019. As you said, we met in London, right, in 2019 in person. And so that was basically the start of the more entrepreneurial side of my past, let me say. Maybe to go one short step back. Like you said, my origins are in sales, so I had my own sales company. I worked in a quite large multinational company, not only in sales but also in the quality side, quality control, etc.
Oh, didn't know that. Okay.
In this last company, I was quite successfully, let me say, going through the different ranks to mid-management, and in quite young years. So I have to say that. So that was also a good experience. But in 2019, I decided to go back to the entrepreneurial side and started this acquisition process, let me say. And I think at the beginning it was we had a pretty good start, I would say. We were quite fast in building the team, building a board, get the contacts with professionals, etc. But then the pandemic hit, as you mentioned, and it was a hard stop for me. So we had already figured out, or we already had, I think, 14 LOIs in that place, and wanted to acquire them pretty fast. And from one day of another, when COVID-19 came, everybody shut their business down, basically, or the selling process of their business. And so for the next 12 months, something like that, nothing really happened. And then all of a sudden it changed again, and traction starts to happen again, and we got the horsepower back on the road, so to say.
Yeah, and neither one of us know what changed.
No,
it just changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was like for the same thing when it happened to stop working, it worked again. So it was like, yeah, right. I don't know, but it doesn't matter actually. So
yeah.
Now, if I'm looking back, it was a hell of a ride, and we bought over 20 companies already. So that's a good thing, and I'm surprised, and I'm looking back, and I only see the positive memories, to be honest. Yeah. So I had some thoughts about what was the biggest challenge or the hard things, but actually the past is mostly in a good memory. So good thoughts. So,
and you did a lot of things and had a lot of things you had to overcome. As I recall, your chairman resigned the day before your board meeting. Most people would have said, well, I guess this isn't going to work and we'll have to postpone the meeting, but you went forward.
Yes, we did.
Same thing with the 14 LOIs for people that are going through this process and acquiring LOIs. That doesn't happen by accident. So to see 14 of them disappear was a pretty emotional event. But
it was,
as a guy I know by the name of Gabriel has said, you got to hang around long enough for the good things to happen. So now, in full disclosure, I have a piece of your deal, so I just want to be clear on that. You were generous in offering that to me, and I'm glad that you finally kept after me, and I accepted. But just wanted to say that. So, how has your life changed from that day in 2019?
Oh, it changed a lot. So I was always thinking about big dreams, big goals, and to build something big. But I never expected to be that fast. And so my life 180 degrees completely changed. And now we have an organization with over 300 employees. I'm the CEO of the company. Especially the deal side is under my responsibility, but also you have to make a lot of tough decisions. And I think the most important thing is that you really have to let me say establish leadership skills. You have to establish a good team structure and good employees to delegate to, because it changed from even if a salesman you're selling your product or your services, whatever, but now you have to make sure that the whole organization, let me take this as an example, sell the right thing and the right services and do it in a good manner and good quality standard. So if I look back, it's like nothing like ever before. It's like a new chapter, completely new life. So to sum it up.
Yeah. And in the beginning, even to the point of doing the letters that you did letters in the beginning. I think you essentially used one that I had put together, but you might have tweaked that a little bit. But that letter pulled tremendously. But you did all of that. You printed the letters, you mailed the letters. Yes. It was a company with one employee essentially at that point. And so
a half-time employee, Mr. Whipple.
Yeah,
so
well, that's true. A part-time, because yes, you were working 10 hours a day in your sales job, right?
Exactly.
So you worked in the morning, and before work, you worked in the evening after work, and then 10 hours or so on Saturday or Sunday. So yeah, part-time.
So at the beginning, I really did everything myself. I did no outsourcing whatsoever. So just figuring out a way how to contact potential acquisition targets in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. I had some challenges in let me say, change the language. So I'm not an English speaker.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So we have to change it to my main language or first language. So these translations, they were sometimes a little bit difficult to do because other cultures, other languages. But what I did is basically I send letters to potential interesting targets, and then I followed up with a call. Mm-hmm. And if they were motivated, I was quite pushy sometimes, as the one or the other can tell. And that's basically the initial process. And but that's, let me say, the start. And then we went through the negotiation phase, through an LOI, through a term sheet sometimes, and then to a purchase agreement. And but everything started with a letter. Yeah,
everything started with a letter. Absolutely. And knowing, I think it's important, knowing the steps, right? Knowing how to put together a board, knowing how to do that process and get professionals.
Exactly.
Which was, you had your challenges, but you did that pretty quick. And one of the things you did, I think, very well was to use your board. In fact, with the professionals, I think, if I remember correctly, essentially you said to your group, here's what we want, contact the people you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And it worked out well. So how has being a CEO been different for you?
In terms of my past or in general?
No, in terms of the lessons you've had to learn, how to delegate, how to keep people accountable, that sort of thing?
I think one of the biggest things is you have to learn to let go. So to let tasks, even if they're really important, you have to delegate them, but you have to make sure that they're done pretty, or they're done correct. So I think to delegate, but at the same time, in a high level scenario, pull the strings and make sure that everybody pulls in the same direction. I think that was one of the things I have to learn. So I'm pretty good on my own, but you have to depend on people, and you have to use the people you brought, or you build up for you. And I think that's the biggest change. You're not able to rely on yourself and your skills, but you have to rely on other people, and you have to use other people, because otherwise you're not able to pull something off like we did. So
right. You can't grow quickly if you are the bottleneck in every decision.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
One word maybe is
sure.
really leadership skills, and but in the same time,
you just read my mind.
Yeah, so it's like leadership, and you have to learn them. It's like the building blocks I call the steps. You're getting better and better every way, or every step, or every building block, whatever you want to call it. And you have to lead, and you have to learn that while doing it. So it's nothing you can read on, or you cannot read a book on leadership and pull it off. So you have to just do it, and then you're getting more comfortable in as a leader to tell a 60-year-old man what he has to do at the beginning in age is not that easy, and to do that with confidence, I think that's something you have to learn.
Well, absolutely. If you were to sum that up, what things did you learn about leadership that you were able to learn from, implement, get better at?
I think one particular thing is what I mentioned before, to let go, right? To give control to somebody else, but at the other point, make sure the people have the right tools to make the work. So you have to give him everything, information, tools, your expectation, etc., and then hold them accountable to what you gave them. But you, at the same time, you should be aware you cannot say that they did a bad job if you don't give them the right tools and the right information. So I think to delegate properly and hold them accountable, I think these are the really outstanding things you have to
absolutely do. And one of the lessons I learned early on was that, especially with good people, people are going to screw up. Just like you said, you're going to learn your lessons as you go forward. So sometimes you don't have to tell someone they screwed up. They already know they screwed up.
Next time.
Then one of the statements I used an awful lot was, next time, what would you do differently? How would you not repeat that same thing? And that way you develop leaders and competent people under you as well, right? If you make every decision yourself, you don't develop those people. So,
100%.
Asking people to come to you, especially if you got 300 people, you get a system probably that all 300 people aren't contacting you, but I suspect a lot are, if they bring a problem, to say, what do you find as the solution?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I had the last couple of months. People, they have their complaints, and they will start complaining in some points, but to give them the counter question, or to give them the tools to be the solution and not the problem. I think that was something I'm still learning. So every day I'm learning on this process. And the second thing I want to say was to pay them good money, to pay good employees money, and to that's one of my motto. If you want to, all of our employees are more like business partners. We see them more as business partners, and to include them also in the economic benefits we create. And if you do that, they will see themselves not as employees, but as entrepreneurs, actually.
Yeah, and they'll concentrate on working harder, improving the business, all of those things.
Exactly.
And so absolutely. So if you were to look back on your acquisition journey, what are the big lessons from that you would say, whether that's using your board, assembling the right people, taking action, kissing frogs, whatever it is?
Yeah. So one thing is you have to be aware of a lot of rejection. So I think that's one big thing. You will get rejected a lot, and that's totally normal. And that's a big lesson. You have to just go over these rejections and keep doing what you're good at, and delegating things you're not so good at. So, but another big takeaway is to find and hire the right people. If they're board members or C-level executives or just managers in the regional side, doesn't matter. I think I had a big setback with one bad decision I made in terms of let me say, of an executive we hired, and I cannot say who and whatever, but I think there was a hard setback, and so be careful who you pick and who you let in your in the rabbit hole, so to say. So and
you are going to make mistakes. The important thing with those is recognize that you made a mistake, take action to correct it. You did that. You ended up replacing that person with someone who is better, I think.
Yes.
You know, and so it's not the last hire that you're going to regret. But to be able to maintain high standards with an organization, you have to keep people who are, and keep them progressing, who can do the job. But if people can't do the job, you've got to eliminate those people. First, try to train them and correct them. But if that's not going to work and you've just made a bad choice, correct it and move on. What was your experience with the mentoring? You know, originally you bought the course that I put together. You followed those steps. We did one-on-one mentoring for a while. We did group coaching for a while. But how important do you see mentors and that process?
So I think you always need a mentor, a coach, however you want to call it, as a, let me say, sparring partner, as a accountability partner, but also as somebody who has been there and done that, what you actually trying to accomplish. So I think it's no matter where, I think it's really important to have a mentor, have a coach, whatever you want to call it, to who has already done something you want to achieve or you strive for. And I'm not sure if maybe it's possible without, but I'm pretty confident that it's not possible in that speed and in that magnitude we achieved it without a mentor like you. In the meantime, I have 3 mentors, and they are all contributing to my success a lot. I think it's really important to have a mentor, to have a coach, to have a sparring partner. And important is that they should have a lot more experience than you, and they have to be successful in the thing you want to achieve. So tremendously important. And the course, I think it was really good to gather the basic elements of an acquisition company, of a roll-up or buy and build strategy, whatever you want to call it. I think it's really important, or it helps to gather the necessary building blocks to do it. I don't think you need a mentor to start. I don't think that you need that. But along the way, hopefully, if you do it right, you will get mentors through the building of the company. So massively important, the mentor relationship.
Yeah, and I think our relationship, a lot of it is, and you're right, it's experience that over all these years that I've had. But you often come and say, "Here's the situation. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think?"
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of times the answer is, "Yeah, I think that's right," or "I think there's a better way to do it," and to have that. And one of the things that you do that's super important is that a lot of people, when they're having problems, don't articulate those problems to their mentors, whoever. And so that's not to say that you should share doubts, but it is to say that
Yeah,
a lot of people end up saying, well, maybe that'll fix itself in time. And usually it doesn't. And what you do in that circumstance is you rob yourself of time to fix the problem. So you're pretty good at saying, hey, here's a situation,
yeah,
here's a problem, et cetera, et cetera. And when you've got 20 plus business locations now, you're going to have problems all the time.
exactly.
You just are, and you certainly get better at fixing them. But sometimes the input that you need and the time you need, raise your hand as soon as you see that problem. Absolutely,
100%. So that's what I meant by sparring partner, so to say, to come up with or to show a problem, an issue, a challenge, and figure out with joint forces, figure out a way to work around or to solve the issue. But you have to be confident enough to, even if you made a bad decision or you made your mistake yourself, to point it out and say, okay, that's an issue. I made something wrong or was a terrible decision. How do we fix it? And I think that's something I did always. If I have a bad situation, I call it out, and I come to you, come to my team, to my partners, and we figure out a way. Usually problems don't fix themselves, so
no,
you
no,
have to work on them.
Yeah, and left alone, usually they actually become bigger problems. Yeah,
that's true.
And again, you by not raising your hand early, you rob yourself of the time that sometimes, if you had that time, you could have fixed it, as opposed to letting it become a big problem. So what do you think, be a little egotistical here, what do you think separates you from, in this process, that those that don't succeed?
That's a good question. I had some thoughts about that. I think there are several things. First of all, I think you have to be a decent communicator, at least. So, like I said, English is not my first language. My first language is a little bit better than my English, but I think I'm a pretty good salesman and a decent communicator. I think that's a big part, because you have to sell your dream, you have to sell the vision, the mission, what you try to accomplish, and it has to be tangible for people. They have to understand what you're trying to explain to them. Sellers, partners, whatever. So everybody has to get what you want from them. So be a good communicator, and then confidence in communication, but also in if shit hits the fence. So you have to be confident. You have to be the guy nobody shares. Oh no, you are not allowed to share doubts. The people, your team, everybody has to have the feeling that you have everything in your control. So I think confidence, even if it's sometimes not true.
Yeah. You're right, because when the shit hits the fan, if you panic, everyone else will panic. They'll follow your lead, and good leaders become calmer in crisis. That's not easy, and you're right, it is learned, and sometimes on the inside you don't feel that way. But you also develop within yourself a track record of, okay, I've seen this kind of problem before, and I know what to do, and I know. Yes. So you get, sometimes you get an adrenaline spike when you get bad news, but that settles down, then you get to work. Absolutely.
So I'm always trying to be more and more stoic. That's the word I use. If the situation gets worse, or if we have problems. So I think confidence is really important, but above all, I think perseverance and persistence.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think that's and I'm a pretty persistent guy. So so I think that's maybe the number one contributor. If you can say one thing, I would say persistence and perseverance.
Persistence, perseverance, action. And I go back to the letters that were working that weren't working, the 14 LOIs that you got that disappeared. Most people would have said, "Oh, okay, well, boy, that was hard, and it's all gone." So, no, this isn't going to work. But that's not the path you chose. The other thing, and if I've ever said this to you before, but you certainly share this trait that I view as very important myself, and that is to be punctual. Is that, and I remember you told me a story that you went to meet your father for lunch, and
Yes.
I could be off a minute or two, but you were supposed to meet at 12 o'clock. You got there at 12:02 or 12:03. Texted your dad and said, "I'm at the restaurant. Where are you?" And he essentially said, "I was there at 12. You weren't. I left."
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's a
I had a
good
good
lesson to
mentor
learn.
too, and yeah,
Yeah, you had a good mentor in your dad.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah.
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 The
Integrity. Yeah.
yeah,
Punctuality,
integrity, great
integrity.
point. Great
Yeah.
point. And what do you mean by that? How does that exhibit itself in what you've
So
seen?
in my first language there would be a specific saying, but basically if a man give you his word or his handshake or whatever, it has to be his bond.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the most the best image I can try to project for anybody listening.
Yeah.
So if somebody says something, he will do it, and you have that. If you have the partners that they who will do that, and you're also the guy who always does it, I think you will have a much better life and much better
Absolutely.
business relationships.
And you build that reputation. You build that
Exactly.
reputation that Gabriel said this, and guess what? He did it.
He did it.
Sometimes that costs you money to do that. When other people would say, well, we can't afford to do that. But those are the times when integrity shows the most.
Exactly.
And that's the experience that other people will remember too. They'll remember, it cost him money to follow through on what he did, but he did it anyway.
I have an example on that. So
yeah,
I'm following up on this habit. Let me say pretty hard, like you said. And a short while ago I made a, let me say, not a terrible, but it was not the best deal. It was not an acquisition. It was another negotiation, and we had a handshake on that deal. It turned out to be not the best deal I could have reached or negotiated, but we already agreed, or I agreed, and my team was furious and said, "No, you cannot accept that." But I said, "Look, I already we had our handshake. The deal is done. We don't have to renegotiate it. End of story." And I think that's important habit. And yeah.
Well, I think it's an important habit. I think it's an important lesson to those employees. And it's one thing to say you have integrity, but it's another thing to act like it. And in that moment, you imparted to them, okay, he did what he said he was going to do, even though it was a bad deal, if you will. And you're going to have some of those.
Exactly.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's super important. One of the few things worth dying for is your integrity.
Yes, exactly.
So when we started working together, what do you think was your biggest challenge?
So I thought about that too, and there were a lot of challenges and also problems in the whole process in building up the company. But actually, I cannot say there was one big challenge that was floating around in my mind. So it's I cannot point out one particular challenge. I really can't. So it's I think if you want to call it a challenge, it's to have the particular guidance to help you going this way, because sometimes it's lonely, right? It's lonely. Sure. And if you have, I use the word again, sparring partner, you can call, you can write, and he will help you to guide yourself. He's not guiding you, but he helps you guide yourself through any issues that might appear. I think that was really important. But there's not one challenge I said that hold me back or prevented me from going faster. I think
I thought you're right. And one of the things that holds a lot of people back, that you don't suffer from this, everybody suffers a little bit, but not to a large degree, is self-image and self-esteem. Is, can I really do this? You know, what if I call and I'm rejected? What if the banks won't loan me money? What if the people won't sell to me? On and on. What if I can't get professionals? And I don't ever recall a conversation that we had like that. It's like, I don't think I can do this, and you know, I'm having too many problems. You focused on the things you wanted,
yes,
and you kept your mind off the things you didn't want, essentially.
Yes, yeah. You can say that. I think maybe I'm a little bit gifted in this area, but I try to remember also in my past, in sports or whatever, it was never a thing to focus. I cannot do that, or it's hard. It was never. That's not my nature. So maybe that's a little gift I got from my parents.
Or maybe it's a big gift you got from
maybe
parents.
It's a big gift. Yeah.
Absolutely. So can you think back on what guidance I gave you, and how did you apply it, and did it work, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think especially in tough negotiations, in let me say in discussions with business partners that were not that easy, how to maneuver, let me say, a really complex situation. Your guidance was always let me say, not yet for sure guidance, but your I don't recall the word in English. Your know-how, what is it called? The things you have
your experience.
Experience was the word, exactly. Yeah. So I think experience. I don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
To my age.
You have a lot more now.
Yes. But if you look at somebody who is 3 times as old as you are, or 2 times as old as you are, he has to have a lot more experience if he was doing the same thing, basically.
Right.
Like, so I think to see a complex situation, and maybe you had the same situation in one kind or another 10 times the same thing, the basic issue, and to help maneuver through your experience, through these conversations, negotiations, etc. I think that was if I recall, I think that was the most time we spent on was complex situations and how to handle them.
Yeah.
Complex negotiation, how to handle them, how to structure certain projects and all that things. And I think your hundreds of deals experience come in handy in such a situation. And I think you helped me guide this situation a lot, or these problems.
Well, thank you. And you put that into action, which is kind of the most important piece of it.
Yes.
So how did the mentoring save you time? How did it save you money, if it did?
I think it saved me a lot of time. Also because there we are again with the sparring party, you're a little bit held accountable on your process. So if you following up every week or every 2 weeks or every month, whatever, you want to show progress, right? So and you sometimes we lie to ourselves and say, yeah, we do that later. If you have the follow-up meetings or our weekly catch-ups or whatever you want to call it, you have to show something. So it saves time in the sense that you have a sense of urgency engineered in your life because you want to deliver something to somebody you are, let me say, you hold yourself accountable to. In terms of money, I cannot put a number on it. I cannot, but I'm pretty sure if I did it 100% by myself, I would make more mistakes, maybe some more bad deals. And so I think it's quite priceless to have somebody like you, a mentor that help you guide and maneuver through building up a company, an acquisition company. So I would say priceless. it's saving money. And in terms of time, I would say there, if you can, one phone call and an issue is basically solved, or you have a war plan for an issue, and maybe alone you would have weeks to figure it out. Everybody can decide for themselves how much time it saves. So
yeah,
I would say
absolutely. And as I think back on it, you know, the process of where you were in that August of 2019 to where you are less than 4 years later, there's not many programs that, legal programs anyway, that can allow you to generate the kind of enterprise value wealth that you've been able to generate in that time frame. Never would have happened if you had stayed where you were. Never would have happened.
I agree, 100%.
You know,
impossible.
Unless you play a lottery and the odds are about 300 million to 1, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing I've seen is that your dream, your goals have certainly evolved over time. In the beginning, I'm not so sure you would have been able to think that within this time frame you would get the hunting line from the bank that you have today, and that you could go and double that reasonably easy with some help from your board, certainly, and that you could grow beyond where you are now. You know, you would maybe have focused tighter geography, but now you've widened that horizon as well.
Exactly.
So what were goals before grew as well with your experience, with your success, and you realized, you know, I can do this, you know, at a continuing larger level than you have.
100%. And I would say I use the word a lot also with my team. We established, and it's maybe not 100% now the first steps and the building blocks, but you create your own blueprint, let me say, and you can adapt it on everything, basically. If that's an acquisition, if it's negotiation, is selling, whatever. And I think now I understand. I have a blueprint, and I basically can copy it to everything else. And
copy and paste, rinse, repeat, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. And I think that's even to a degree that a lot of even private equity firms here where I am, and family offices, they don't understand it. They're not understanding what we are doing here and how I do it that quickly. And they're asking now us, what do you do differently? And I think that's after a couple of acquisitions, and you understand what's really behind it, and you have the confidence and the experience or competence and experience. The sky's the limit, basically. So
and now, as opposed to you reaching out, although you are still reaching out in some of these new areas you're working, but you end up getting calls because of the success you've had. You know, in the beginning, that's hard to believe that people are going to be calling me to give me a deal, but you've had that happen. Yes.
So to full disclosure, at the moment in our core business area, we do not do any outreach anymore. So there are people that are bringing the deals to us. There are persons if somebody wants to sell, they are just calling us because they see they see our success, but they also see our how we do business with a lot of integrity, with a lot of common, let me say, or with a lot of honesty. So we don't try to screw somebody over. We are just fair. We're straight to the point, and we're fast, quick, and have a lot of integrity. And I think there we are again with if they see you have a lot of integrity and you are successful, they want to be around you. And I think that's where we are right now.
Absolutely. Well, in summary here, first, congratulations again. I'm honored to have you as the first inductee into the Pantheon. You've certainly earned that and did the heavy lifting. What would people that listen to this, what would you leave them as kind of the final thoughts that you might have?
I have to don't say anything wrong here from my side. But I thought a lot about should I say that, but I will. It's certainly not for everybody, and that's okay. That's
true enough. True enough.
So, but I think if there is, like I said earlier, one particular thing or two things that are really important to, two words to your success would be probably persistent focus.
Yeah. Persistent focus and action, right? And
exactly.
action. Yeah, you took a lot of action. Well, good. Well, thank you. And I'm glad that we're doing something together here beyond just the mentoring. Is that it's exciting to see and have a piece of what you're doing. That
valuable piece.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you very much.